hoping, fingers crossed, that the Lord in her infinite wisdom has given me another gimme, because I have what I think is 2 shelves worth of adult fiction books, or dystopias, or a mixture of the two, that I think will fit really nicely on 2 shelves. And if I only have to get rid of a couple of them, I think we'll get away okay. No idea what my cat's doing. What's the plan, bud? Yes? Can I help you? I'm just a bridge down, thank you. And now he's climbing in a bag. Okay. So if you haven't been here before, my name is Hannah, and this is Pack or Pass, where I basically go through my shelves and decide which books are worth me bringing down. And I have a horrible suspicion my camera is now wonky because I moved it to show the cat, but is that better? I don't know, is that worse? Okay, she looks level now, but I don't know for sure. Anyway, we've now reached the stage where most of my shelves are pretty much empty, but I do have what I think is 2 shelves worth of adult fiction. So we're gonna go through it and see what you think. I've got Horror Store by Grady Hendrix, which is essentially the IKEA catalogue, but also a horror story. IKEA is haunted in this, and you go through it. It's quite a fun little mystery. I don't know if I'll ever reread it, but I do really like recommending it to people, so it's staying on my shelves. I have The Old Woman with a Knife by Gyu Byung-mo, which is a slasher thriller where the antagonist / protagonist is in her 70s and thinks she's getting dementia. So is trying to like wrap things up, all the while, having been an assassin for years, she's now got an assassin on her tail, and it's like a whole thing, and it's really fun. And again, love recommending it, so really glad I get to keep it. I have The Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand, which so far is the only Claire Legrand book that I've ever really enjoyed, but I really like that this has Ace Rep in it. She thinks she's a monster, but actually she's fighting the monsters type monster horror, and yes, just absolutely adore this book. I obviously have my copy of Graveyard Shift, which is the paperback version, and I made a real point when I was like bringing it onto my shelf, I was like, it has to be something that I want to reread more than anything else on my shelf, because I already have the hardback, but I'm having to keep it. It's so pretty, and I can't wait to recommend this at every Gothtober. I then also have the paperback copy of Mexican Gothic, even though I already have the hardback of Mexican Gothic, because just look at this cover. Just look at this cover. And because I'm keeping every Silvia Garcia book that I've got, I've also got the paperback of Signal to Noise, which I have not read yet. This is technically on my TBR, but they are both staying on my shelves. I am packing both of them. Flowers in the Attic is another one that I didn't think I would need a tangible copy of, but I'm really glad I do, because again, I get to recommend it. This is the most messed up child abuse story that my mum recommended to me at 11 years old. Which I hope you sit there and you go, oh, it makes sense now. She makes sense now. Because this is the sort of stuff my mum is reading and going, Hannah would love that. And she's not wrong, but it was still traumatizing. It's a really sad, really, really sad book, but it is beautiful. It is so beautiful and so sad and so messed up. I can't wait to read the second one again, because I've read the first 4. I have my favourite LGBT horror writer, Chuck Tingle. I've got Camp Damascus and Bury Your Gaze. I cannot wait. They've got a new one coming out, which I think is called Lucky Day, and I'm really looking forward to that one. I love an LGBT horror, and no one writes them quite as dramatic as Chuck Tingle. I love these because they've got the comedy in them, like the beats of it just work. They're really great, they're really scary, and they're just really good. I have my entire Angel of Indian Lake collection, or trilogy, and I really, really want to get Only the Good Indians. I don't know why it's not on my shelves yet, because I've read it and loved it, and I enjoy it more than I enjoy these, but I'm keeping these because I also have I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones, which I'm really hoping to get on my TBR for Gothtober this year. Again, another horror writer that I could just absolutely... I've devoured so many of their books. I think I've got 3 left of his that I haven't read. I've got the Buffalo one, this one, and I think there's another short story that he's released that I haven't read yet, but love his style of writing. It's so cleverly done. And then I have my T. Kingfisher paperback collection, which at the moment is just Hollow Places and the Twisted Ones. The Hollow Places has a 10th anniversary hardback. I am really, really tempted to replace this with the hardback and then just unhaul the Twisted Ones, which is not my favourite of their books ever. And then I can have all of my T. Kingfisher books be hardbacks, is a massive temptation. I do also have A Sorceress Comes to Call, which is on my TBR, which is why it's not on my shelves. That is also a paperback. If I can get the hardback in that one and this one, then I will unhaul this one. But for now, if the paperback collection is going to grow, I want to have the full thing. And at the moment, there is space on my shelves. If we run out of space, this is going to be one of the first to go because I just didn't love it the way I loved the Hollow Places. Much like certain fantasy authors, there were certain tropes that felt very copy and paste, and although the Twisted Ones came first, I read the Hollow Places first, so for me that is the origin, not the Twisted Ones. So I can see why people struggle with both of those, because I think it depends on which one you read first is the one that is more gripping, because once you've read one, it's a struggle to read the other one straight away unless what you're looking for is a paint by numbers copy of what you've just enjoyed. And then one of the most poignant LGBT dark academias that are also fantasy is The Library of the Unwritten trilogy by AJ Hackworth. I love recommending these books. They are such a gentle fantasy. They look at so many mythologies. The main character, she's pansexual, and I just not enough people talk about these books. They're so good. Like, they're so good. So I'm really excited to keep these on my shelves and to keep recommending them. And then I have what's left of my TBR in like the horror thriller genre. I have The Counselors by Jessica Goodman, which is about a young girl who is a camp counselor, but then someone dies and they all get caught up in a murder mystery thing. It's giving like Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but set at a summer camp. So really intrigued by that one. I have I Am the Doctor Answers When You Call, which is the second in the Jameson Shea I Feed It to the Beast duology, which is about a ballerina who sells her soul to the devil essentially so that she can dance better or be noticed as a dancer. This looks harrowing, but the actual writing style was very, very gentle and very, very fast in the first one. It is very short, so I do want to read it, but my expectations for it are considerably lower than they were for I Feed It to the Beast, because I was really anticipating I Feed It to the Beast and it was just fine. So another one that could potentially go, because I didn't love the first one, but for now it fits, so it's staying. Feed Whilst You Can by Michaela Clemens and Onjula Datta. This was unhauled to me from Olivia. I have no idea anything about it. I just thought that vibe felt very Chuck Tingle, and it's a horror, so I'm keeping it. That's all I know, that's all I want to know. Also, it's very much giving like Nosferatu, which is also a vibe. I have the bound proof of The Reformatory. Now, I know what you're thinking, Hannah, you did all your uncorrected proofs, but this was a horror and it fit really nicely on this shelf, so I kept it here. It's also massive, so we had to be very careful with what space we were using, and I thought horror shelf made more sense. I really need to read this. I got this from Titan as an ARC, but I also was supposed to do this as part of like a Patreon buddy read and then just never got around to it. I need to get to this. I need to prioritize it. If I can prioritize it in Gothtober, I will do my best. But she's chunky. She's a big girl. I have Unhallowed Halls by Lily Wilkinson, which is another dark academia that was a Patreon pick, so I need to get to this soon. I have Silver Under Nightfall by Rinch Pecco, which is the first in what I think is a duology about vampires, but it might be a series, it might be a trilogy, I don't remember. But this was gifted to me by Becca, and again, need to get to it soon. Hoping to get to it in Gothtober. And then the last like proper thriller is People Pleaser by Catriona Stewart, which there's just something about it. Maybe it's the green. I am very drawn to green at the moment, but it just looks like a really fun, fast-paced thriller. Know nothing about it other than the title and the cover, and that was enough. So we have like a little gap here. It's not a massive gap, but I think I'll be able to fit in a couple. So I've got Idol Burning, which is another proof, but it is also tiny, which is about a K-pop band basically burning out when one of the idols does something he shouldn't do. And basically it's from the perspective of one of their stans, who then does like a little like crime solving thing to work out if it is as bad as they thought it was or something to that effect. Again, super short, more literary contemporary than thriller, but I feel like it's got those kinds of vibes, so it can go on this shelf. Then I have Jesse Sutanto's Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, which is just a cozy mystery. Again, probably not suitable for this shelf, but we've got space for stuff, so we're going to put it on the shelf. And then my two independently published fantasies. We have a dark academia called An Incantation of Shadow and Light, which was gifted to me. I mean, it was gifted to me by Abby, but recommended to me by Tish, and I'm just really looking forward to this. Again, chunky, floppy, we enjoy, but I think suitable to go on this shelf. Probably suitable to go further down the other end, but I'm going to put it here, because then the other fantasy that I've got, which was gifted to me by Becca from Becca with Books, is Straight On Till Morning, which again I need to get to. It's a Peter Pan retelling, but from Wendy's perspective, and swashbuckly, and looks really fun, so I need to get to this. It looks fantastic. It is a complete shelf. Isn't that beautiful? And then I've got a mixture of other things. I've got dystopias. Admittedly, I've got some YA dystopias in here, but I've got dystopias and I've got historical fiction, which I think will fit in a shelf. And then that will be 2 gimmies. And if it doesn't fit, then I've already said there's a couple on here that can go and we'll like move things around. But I think I have enough space for both. So my first dystopia that I'm keeping is Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. This is about book burning and is very, very topical and relevant to right now, because it is basically, he is a fireman, and not as a fireman as we would understand it. A fireman is someone who collects books and burns them because they have controversial material in them. Basically, everyone gets their information through this like techno port. Again, very, very reminiscent of now and very kind of almost prophetic in the way that it's kind of like guessed how the world's going to be. So therefore a lot of information is very sanitized, and it's really, really interesting and very kind of like 1984 Animal Farm dystopia style, but actually a really accessible read. Would definitely recommend this if you're looking for more dystopias and you're like nervous about going into like the archives of like the more classic dystopias. This one's a really good one. In the more like traditional YA dystopias that you might be more familiar with, I would absolutely recommend the Knife of Never Letting Go trilogy, but she is chunky and you've got to be prepared to be emotionally traumatized. They are staying on my shelves because I feel like I'm going to be talking about these for some time, and I actually would really like to reread these. Not anytime soon because I've just finished doing the read along of them with Becca and Abby, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to rereading those because they are dark. Obviously, I have to keep my original copy of The Hunger Games. Like, this is so unutterably faded. The tan on this book, in comparison to, like, my own arm, she's seen more daylight than I have. But the fact that... So, my favourite thing about this is that you can change which cover you have. So, you can have the Peter cover, or you can have, which is my favourite, the Katniss cover. And also, can we talk about what a baby Katniss is in this? Like, she's a child. And it's just beautiful. It smells like a musty old book. It smells like, you know when you're like, I want a candle that smells like an old library? This smells like an old library. Look at the difference. That is sun bleach. But I tell you what, she survived. She survived some stuff. But I love this edition, so I'm keeping that. Then I have The Bees, which is also technically a dystopia, but is also like contemporary literary and feminist fiction. The Bees follows Flora 717, who basically goes through every facet of what a bee can do, but does something that in bee culture is like a massive no-no and could cost her life. And it's a beautifully sad and powerful story. And you'll read it and you'll be like, why do I care about bees? But you do care about bees. You will read this and care about bees. Lillian Paull's writing is so clever. It's beautiful. It's really good. As a dystopia, it's really good. Then I've got some more traditional, caught between a fantasy and sci-fi, but really, really interesting. Again, looks at emotion, looks at trauma, and looks at slavery and generational trauma, and it's just really, really beautiful, really cleverly done. I have Binti and Binti Home. Now, apparently there is meant to be a book in between 2 of these, which I think is like, I think a new one's come out that's like in between the 2. So publishing-wise, they are like 1 and then 2, but I think there is now a 3rd one that's technically in between the 2 of them. But yeah, thriller, sci-fis, Afrofuturistic, really, really fun, really, really interesting. And I fully intend to collect the full series of this. I think there's 4 in total. So I'm also, if you have seen my wrap up and you were like, Hannah, where are your copies of Binti? Because I looked for it for, no joke, 5 minutes. I looked up and down these shelves, couldn't find it. I put them in my graphic novels. Why? Anyway, I found them now and they're going on my shelf. Another kind of like sci-fi fantasy that I need the sequel of is The Blood Trials by Annie Davenport. I loved this. This is so, so good. And if you're looking for a book where you're like, okay, it's Republic, it's inspired by Roman and Greek mythology, but it has a BIPOC character, you have those kind of like Hunger Games style trials, this is the book that I would recommend to you, and I'm so glad that I get to keep it on my shelf. I would love to have space for the sequel. I don't think I'm going to have space for the sequel unless I unhaul some things, but I would love to have space for the sequel. For the now, it fits. And then the last one is my paperback copy of Artemis. It is hilarious to me that the only Andy Weir book that I have on my shelves tangibly is Artemis, because I borrowed a friend's copy to read the other two and did them as audiobooks alongside. This is the only one that I bought for myself. I do really want to get the paperbacks so I can have the full backlist of Andy Weir. And if Andy Weir could finish writing another book, that'd be great. I need another sci-fi by Andy Weir in my life. And if you have any authors like Andy Weir that you would like to recommend me, please, I need them in my life. So now we have my historical fictions, which I think are going to fit really nicely in this gap. We have 3 Natalie Haynes books, 2 of which are fiction, which is why they're in the historical fiction, and 1 is a non-fiction, but I wanted to keep them all together. So Natalie Haynes is a comedian, but also a Greek or antiquities historian who just writes really beautiful, really funny, really feminist takes on Greek myth. I know loads of people either love or hate her. I am very much in the love her camp. These were, again, they could have gone in my kind of like Greek collection, but the Greek collection was a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be, so they're going to stay with historical fiction and they're going to live on this shelf. I have The Natural History of Dragons, and I also have on my TBR for this month the sequel, which is A Tropic of Serpents. I will absolutely get that as a tangible copy, but I'm doing it as an audiobook first because I really enjoyed this. This was a Patreon pick, and my thought is if I really enjoy the rest of the series, I will absolutely get the rest. If not, I don't need the rest. I could do them either as library picks or as audiobooks and then just have this one to recommend to save space. But then also your girl likes a full series on her shelf. So swings and roundabouts. She's got to make choices, but for now there is space for at least one. I have the 25th anniversary of Joanne Harris's Chocolat. This is a really slow burn. Like, okay, if you ever watch The Good Witch, and I make this comparison a lot, if you ever watch The Good Witch, there is like a way that The Good Witch is written where there is like calamity, but it is the most gentle, soft, white magic kind of calamity that can be easily solved within an episode, and it's very easy to watch. This is that in book form. It is such a gentle magic system. There is fantasy elements to it, but it's very sedate, it's very gentle, it's a really lovely time. And therefore it's staying on my shelves. Again, I would really like to read the rest of this series. It wasn't a series when it started, it was a standalone, but there is the Lollipop Shoes, the Strawberry Thief, and the 4th one that I cannot remember off the top of my head, and I would like to get to all of them. We have The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. This is a chunky Pride and Prejudice retelling, and one of the few that survived my massive vlog series of reading all of the Pride and Prejudice retellings. I loved it. And I will happily reread this. I will happily reread this because it is such a beautiful story. And considering how much I don't care about Mary in the original, Mary is just such a wonderful character in this, and I'm so glad she got a happy ending. It's such a beautiful book. I have a charity edition of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I'm not that fussed about keeping if I end up not having space moving forwards, but I do like being able to talk to certain generations about it. I know it's not for everybody. Loads of people really like Taylor Jenkins Reid's style of writing, but don't like her politics, and I think that's completely valid. This cost me £1.29 and was almost for a challenge. I think it was for a challenge like a couple of years ago, and it was really beautiful and it made me cry, and that is the reason why I've kept it. But I don't know if it's something that I'm going to keep long term just with the discussions around Taylor Jenkins Reid moving forwards. But it's on my shelves for now, but it might not stay there. And then the last book that I've read is The Foundling by Stacey Halls, which is a beautiful Victorian Gothic. And I've noticed that although I don't like reading Victorian Gothics, they have to be the right kind of Victorian Gothics. If I like them, they are likely to stay on my shelves, as opposed to other types of Gothic, which are more like the horror or vampire spectrum, where I read them, I like them, but then I pass them on. This is about a young girl who cannot afford the baby that she's just had because the husband is dead, or the man is dead, and like it then becomes like a whole plot twist when she returns 5 years later to buy her baby back, and the baby is no longer in the workhouse. It has been adopted by the mother, and it becomes a whole thing, and it's like part mystery, part kind of like Victorian thriller, but it actually had a really beautiful, really satisfying ending, and I was really pleased. I was really pleased with this one, so I've kept it so I can recommend. And then this is like my historical fiction TBR, which again is going to fit in this gap just beautifully, and after having such a stressful week, I'm so glad that this is a gimme, because I don't know what I would do if I had to like unhaul some of these. I have A Million to One by Adiba Jagadar, which could go on my way or kind of like an older middle grade, but I really like that it's a Titanic concept. I did try a chapter of this because I was fully prepared to get rid, but I actually really enjoyed it, so that is staying on my shelf. I have Virginia Woolf's Orlando, which was unhauled to me from Olivia, and I really am intrigued to kind of get to the like trans rep of this, considering it was so before its time. Really intrigued. I have The Appeal by Janice Hallett, which I feel like I've had for 100 years, and people have begged me to put this on my TBR, and then I start it and I just don't get anywhere with it. So I am gonna try. I'm gonna try and get to it for Gothtober, but I make no promises. I have Storylines by Amy Jeffs, which I don't think I included the clip, but there was a moment when I realised this wasn't non-fiction and had like a whole existential crisis of, was I gonna have space for it on my shelf? Yes. In historical fiction, where it belongs. I have Triflers Need Not Apply, which I actually started, but I've apparently taken the bookmark out because I got about here and then just didn't pick it up again. But this was one that was originally a Patreon pick, but I just haven't got to yet. Essentially, this is about a woman who owns, or at least I think this is about a woman who owns a like boarding house, but then she starts killing people that stay there. And it's based on real events as far as I'm aware. So I'm intrigued. Another one based on real events is Colson Whitehead's The Nickel Boys, which is about the group of black boys who were arrested for, I want to say a rape, it might be a murder that they did not commit. And this is going to be traumatizing. This is going to be absolutely traumatizing, but I'm ready. I'm ready to get to this one. And then actually I've just realised the gap is big enough that even with my final book, there is still space. And I've never been more happy in my life. We have Herc, which is by Phoenicia Rogerson, which is about Hercules. Obviously, this was gifted to me by my partner, Zach, because he knows I really enjoy Greek mythology. So, really excited to get to this one. Also, did not realise just how shiny it was. Enjoying that as well. So, there you go. My adult fiction / dystopias, because there are some YA ones in there, is a gimme. I've got space for at least one more book, which means I could buy more. I won't, but I could. And this has just really pleased me. This is just such a wonderful way to start my day. So thank you for joining me. Let me know in the comments down below what book, if you were going to recommend me a historical fiction to fit in this gap, what book would you recommend? If you want to let me know you were here, feel free to leave some kind of astronaut or space emoji in the comments down below. Treat yourself to something from Waypoint Books because it supports me and my content. Check out the links down below because I have a Patreon now, and most importantly, have a nice day.